Hello, everyone, and welcome to our latest episode of Insights Direct, the influencer's guide to making the case for iLottery. NeoPollard Interactive is an award-winning supplier of iLottery solutions that power the industry's most profitable iLottery programs. Since 2014, NeoPollard Interactive has introduced iLottery solutions with the Michigan, Virginia, New Hampshire, and North Carolina lotteries. Joining us today from NPI, we have Liz Siver, General Manager of NeoPollard Interactive, Scott Bowen, Senior Vice President of Government Affairs and the former Commissioner of the Michigan Lottery, Julin Shaw, Director of Marketing, and Sydney Sabag, Director of Product and Solutions. The topic of iLottery is picking up rapidly as lotteries explore impacts to state budgets over the last several months, especially as the pandemic highlighted the importance of providing additional distribution channels for lottery products. This cross-functional team brings extensive iLottery expertise to our forum, and their goal today is to make sure you get the insights you need to prepare yourselves on the topic of iLottery. And now, please welcome Liz, Scott, Julin, and Sydney.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you to our friends at NASPL for hosting the event today. We're bummed that we can't be with you in person. I know we all look forward to the day when we can be back together again, seeing each other face to face, sharing some laughs, and really just exchanging some great ideas. Until that time becomes real again, I guess we're just going to have to make the most of this virtual world that we live in. We're delighted to be part of the conversation today and talk a little bit about the iLottery trends that we're seeing and kind of how to get there. The conversation for us at NPI has changed dramatically over the last couple months, and we really we look to the global pandemic that's created this seismic shift, and not only the way in which we all work every day, but actually just kind of the way in which people go about their daily lives. Online channels have just become so much more important to the way people get things done. We've been engaging in several conversations with lotteries who have yet to cross the digital divide for a multitude of reasons. And maybe where barriers existed before, barriers just don't seem to exist like they did before the pandemic. And governments are much more open to the discussion around iLottery and how to bridge the digital divide. Really what lotteries are saying to us is we just need to be where the players are. And if the players are online, we have to find a way to get there as well. We're seeing that it's no longer kind of a question of if from an iLottery perspective, it's really much more of a question of when. And it's not a question of either or as it relates to retail lottery or online lottery. It's really the conversation of and, because both can coexist so well together. This map just represents a great visual of how far iLottery has come in the last couple of years. We at NPI are delighted to be partnering with Michigan, with New Hampshire, Virginia, North Carolina, and Alberta on their iLottery journey. But you can see here there are others. There are some that have embraced draw-based games only, some that have embraced e-subs. And I know that this map will look dramatically different 2 years from now. That's the pace of the conversation that really has been occurring due to the pandemic. And speaking of the pandemic, just a couple proof points here about what we've seen relative to key KPIs in the online lottery world and the growth from February of 2020 through July 2020 relative to these meaningful KPIs. You can see the increase in bets, the increase in deposits, the increase in net gaming, the increase in players, and the increase in the conversion rate. An interesting point to call out is also that as retail has begun to open up a bit more due to the pandemic, we've also seen that retail numbers are growing significantly alongside of continued iLottery growth. Again, just another proof point to say that these two worlds really coincide, both retail and iLottery. For today's discussion, I'm joined virtually by my colleagues, and we thought we'd take the opportunity to consolidate for all of you just those iLottery hot buttons. As it relates to, where are some of the barriers that maybe lotteries have been feeling about how to embrace the digital divide, how to even consider moving to iLottery. And we just really wanted to simplify it for all of you to make it easy. So we prepared for you a how-to guide for iLottery, and our goal is really to address important topics like age and identity verification. We want to talk a bit about responsible gaming. We're going to talk a lot about the retail engagement. We're going to talk about game offerings and a really good discussion, I think, just around government affairs. We hope that your primary takeaway from this session will just be more informed around iLottery and how to address those hot button questions that come to you from stakeholders within your governments. We thank you for taking the time with us today, and I'm going to now turn it over to my colleague, Sydney Sabag, who's going to talk about the technical hot buttons as it relates to iLottery. Sydney?
Thank you, Liz. One of the most crucial features in our solution is the KYC, Know Your Customer. During the registration process, we collect the player details in order to identify his ID and age to determine if that player can register as an online lottery player. Additionally, if the automatic check via the API fails, we offer the player the opportunity to upload his document for manual verification by customer support. Geolocation. NPI's geolocation solution uses both IP and browser data to determine if the player is within the state boundaries. The solution is very flexible and can be adjusted to determine if deposit is allowed, purchase, or opening instant game. This solution is a robust solution that uses different data sources such as public IP, mobile networks, GPS, and public and private Wi-Fi networks.
Next, we'll talk about responsible gaming, which is threaded through everything that we do. With the data we acquire, iLottery presents opportunities to enact more precise responsible gaming measures than currently available at the retail counter, including spending gaps, strict age and ID verification, and wagering limits, to name a few. I'm going to turn it over now to Sydney.
Thank you, Liz. Our system offers a wide range of responsible gaming tools, which allow players to carefully manage their limits. Limits such as deposit limit, which can help the player to minimize the dollar amount that he can spend in a period of time, purchase limit, loss limit, session limit, the amount of time that the player allows himself to spend in the system, login limit, the number of logins that the player allows himself to do in a time frame. We also offer player controls. For example, default limits. The system can offer default deposit limit on the system level and not on the player level. We also offer a few other player controls such as cool off, which allows the player to basically exclude himself from the system for a short time period and then come back when he feels he's up to it. Time check. This is a measure that allows the player to have a reminder after 2 hours that I'm playing for 2 hours, maybe I want to log out of the system. And of course, self-exclusion, if the player determines that he doesn't want to log into the system anymore for 6 months, a year, or even more. Additional aspect is overwatching solution, such as disallowed player list and comprehensive responsible gaming program. In the disallowed player list, we offer ability for the lotteries to exclude lotteries employees, vendors from registering to the system. We also offer the possibility to integrate with other solutions within the state, such as casinos, sport betting, to receive self-excluded player from their systems and imported to the iLottery solution in order to provide a 360 solution on the player. Here we can see an example of those two tools we described earlier. On the left, deposit limit. Deposit limit allows the player to define how much dollar amount he's willing to deposit to the system in a week, day, or month, and he cannot exceed that limit. On the right, we can see an example of a self-exclusion program. The player can choose to self-exclude from the system for a defined time frame, 6 months, a year, 2 years, and in that time frame, the player cannot log into the system, and he needs to have a reinstatement process.
Thanks, Sydney. Now we're going to get into game content. It's another key pillar and kind of an interesting question that many key stakeholders in the lottery industry are asking us all the time. How are games created? What type of games? The mechanics behind the games? And for further information in that discussion, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Julin Shaw.
Thanks, Liz, for setting the stage on this very important topic. As you mentioned, this is definitely an area where we get quite a few questions in terms of what types of games are offered through an iLottery program, and how do I prepare myself for a conversation with a stakeholder in terms of how this content actually can translate back to the traditional retail product. So we've done a couple of crash courses on games. This is going to be an even more expedited overview of the type of content that is available, at least through our solution, through our studio. This just provides a quick high-level overview of 4 different types of game content. We have custom retail games. These are digital versions of familiar mechanics that you would see in a retail scratch product. Beyond the custom retail products, we have a full portfolio of e-instant games, which offer quite a bit more entertainment value, which is really what the players are here, ready to experience through an online digital offering. Beyond e-instant, we also have recently added more instant Keno games to our portfolio. Instant Keno is basically what you would know and love from retail, just without the wait. So players are able to basically have a Keno draw on demand. And these products are really great in terms of demonstrating stickiness, so driving player retention, as they do tend to speak to the players that are looking for longer term engagement through longer sessions. Instant lotto games, very similar to the instant Keno mechanic, but what you would expect from a game like Mega Millions or Powerball, you now also have through an instant lotto draw. So these are the 4 primary buckets of instant products that are available online. And just for the sake of demonstration, to try to help educate on the content here, this is a really great example that you can walk your stakeholders through. This is a Michigan Lottery retail game. It was a $20 diamond payout scratch off. As you can see on the screen here, the play style is described as your typical key number match, and it also included your standard bonus features like a doubler and an auto win. For the sake of example 2, I've included the instructions where you can see your typical lottery retail mechanic, match any of your numbers, the doubler feature, and the auto win. Now, when we digitize this, we took the exact same design. You can see the design parallel is a complete mirror image of the retail ticket. And we also kept the same play style and the same instructions down to which letters were capitalized versus which were in regular sentence case. So this really helps demonstrate, these are lottery games, they are lottery mechanics. But I would also suggest that even when we get into the more complex entertainment style games, some of you are probably familiar with our Queen of Diamonds game, which was recognized as the top grossing e-instant game in the world several years back. That game, I would be happy to argue the point any time of day that ultimately the mechanic that's being used in that game is also an instant reveal mechanic, which is a customary retail mechanic that is commonly used. Speaking of debate, I would love to hear from our friend Scott Bowen here that iLottery games are not casino games. Tell us, Scott, how do we debate this point with other stakeholders?
Well, thank you, Julin. It is a big debate, and even a source of litigation in Pennsylvania. They're arguing about a reference in the enabling legislation there that said that the lottery was not allowed to do casino-style games. And what we're finding out, every jurisdiction is, of course, different, and you should consult with your legal staff. But the regulators in each state are struggling with the blurring of the line between lottery games and casino games. Traditionally, lottery games were predetermined results printed on tickets, and there was a draw or there was a scratch off. And at casinos, generally, there was a RNG system, a random number generator. And so instead of a predetermined result, you would have individually, based on some odds, every different draw being a random number generated by a computer. Now these things are getting sort of merged, and every state will be different, but lottery games look and feel a little bit more like casino games, and that's not such a bad thing so long as your regulators in each state will allow you to do that. So there's two really things to worry about: the legal distinction, and then what is it that the product appears to be, the look and feel of the product, like you saw with the diamond game Julin just demonstrated. And that looks and feels just like a lottery game. The question is, in some jurisdictions, going to be how close to a double or sevens or a casino-themed game, traditionally casino-themed games. And, that'll be up to the individual regulator in each state whether or not they want to provide those games. So there's a way to work around it, but you have to work with your lawyer.
Awesome. Thanks, Scott. I think while we're on that same topic of commonly debated points, why don't you take us through this other commonly raised point on retail growth alongside iLottery?
Yeah, so for the longest time we've been hearing that, we're going to get cannibalized. The retail is going to be cannibalized by iLottery. If people are playing online, they won't play at the stores. And that is proven now in every jurisdiction in the country and in European countries as well, that's simply not true. Digital engagement enhances retail. It performs better. And all those states that have iLottery are doing better at retail than their competitors, the other states in the United States. This graph shows how much the retail has grown at the same time that iLottery is offered to players. So it has been an accretive endeavor for retail customers and retail partners that we have, that iLottery has been introduced in those 9 jurisdictions.
And probably the one closest to you, this is a nice takeaway for lotteries who might need this data in their back pocket. In Michigan, where this is showing retail instant sales before iLottery launched at $828 million in FY14, all the way up to current data for FY20, which shows growth of 125% in their retail instant category. And that's in Michigan, where they were the first lottery to be a $1 billion iLottery operator. So no question that their iLottery program has grown so significantly, so dramatically, but you can see the retail growth alongside that, to just nail that point home.
And to reinforce the discussion we're having around retail and iLottery, as I said at the beginning of this conversation today, it's not an either or discussion, but it becomes the and discussion. They can coexist quite successfully, And great ways to proactively think about that is really through omni-channel strategies. Julin, I'm going to turn it back to you to talk through just a couple interesting omni-channel strategies that our customers have rolled out today.
Yeah, perfect. So to set the stage for this piece of the discussion, we refer to these as the 4 Ps of omni-channel strategies. So I'm going to walk you through payment strategies, product strategies, promotions, and partner strategies that you can employ to engage your retail network and make sure that they are also a part of the overall iLottery program. Of course, the idea here is that iLottery is bringing us an opportunity for both channels to be successful. So integrating these omni-channel strategies into your overall business strategy is a significant way to demonstrate commitment to your retail network, but also drive growth in both channels. The first of these that I'll touch on are payment methods. The online game card was a product that was first introduced by the Michigan Lottery, and the version that you're seeing on top, the blue online game card, was the first iteration of it. It was a scratch product that was manufactured and sold just like a typical retail scratch product. Same book of tickets, placed in an acrylic dispenser, or through a vending machine. Players would come in for $20. They could purchase this online game card, and it actually acted, you could treat it like a gift card, as a funding method for players when they went to make a deposit. So in the gray area on the ticket where it says scratch here for code, players would uncover a deposit code that they would enter on the deposit screen. And this particular version of the online game card offered a $5 bonus. So while the player purchased a $20 face value, when they actually entered the code during the deposit, they were granted $25 worth of play value. The second version of that, which is tucked a little bit behind there, is the terminal version of this product. So this comes straight out of your retail terminals. It gives you a little bit more flexibility in terms of the values of the online game card that you could offer. So players could come in and request a $10 game card, $25 game card, $50 game card. You can also tie bonuses to this, but it works in the same way that players would simply enter the deposit code on the deposit screen for funding their wallet. So this is a great way for a retail-based, cash-based transaction to lead to an iLottery deposit. And of course, in these instances, retailers were also receiving their standard selling commission on these products. So obviously, great benefit to the retailer. We've evolved a bit in this category as well in terms of payments. So the next innovation I'm going to share with you is retail cash out. So this is something we've launched most recently, where instead of cash in, we're now talking the opposite. So players can cash out their iLottery wins at retail. So if a player won $50 playing an online game, they could submit a withdrawal request within their account. They could receive a mobile voucher on their phone that has a barcode that they can then take to retail for the retailer to scan and cash out their winnings straight there in store. Obviously great for the retailer because you have a lottery player who loves lottery products standing in the retail store with cash in hand. It's a quick overview of a couple of payment strategies that we've seen that have been really successful in integrating the retail network. If we switch over to products, there are several different executions of crossover products that have worked really well for iLottery programs in integrating the retail network. The flow that you're seeing on the left-hand side of the screen is a typical flow that has been executed by the Michigan Lottery, where they've created a nice loop of players initiating an experience at retail and going online and then driving players back to retail. So in this case, a lottery could print a scratch-off product that has a promo code on the ticket. Once the player goes online to register, they're prompted to enter their registration code, and then they receive free games after registration. Now, in some cases, you can add an extra layer to this, where if a player makes a deposit, they can then receive a coupon that will drive them back to the retail store for use. One of the examples you're seeing on the right-hand side of the screen is it does not include the coupon component. However, this was the first time one of NPI's games, Holiday Cheer, was produced in a retail format. So it was the first time we created a printed version of one of our tickets, and you can see the text there on the ticket back that explains to the player once they register and enter the promo code, they'll receive free games of this holiday cheer, retail and instant game. Really great opportunities for some crossover products. From a promotion standpoint, our third P, this is a really great example from the Michigan Lottery. So this is a promotion that they developed where they're using their digital toolkit to drive players back to retail. So this experience, converse to the first two that we looked at that start at retail, the promotion experience here starts online. So players can log in every day for a chance to spin the wheel, and you can see in the prize wheel that there are a variety of both retail-based and online prizes that players can win. So it's driving omni-channel strategies both in both directions, retail and online. And finally, the fourth P is partners. So this refers back to affiliate marketing strategies. And there are two different primary types of affiliates. There are both digital affiliates that primarily promote online to help drive traffic to a lottery's iLottery program. These digital affiliates are then incented for the acquisition of any players that come through their digital medium. And there are also retail affiliates. So this is a great strategic advantage for lotteries because you have a huge network of retail partners that can help drive traffic to your iLottery program. And as those retailers drive acquisition, they're also compensated for driving players to your online program. It gives them some skin in the game as well. That's the 4 Ps of omnichannel strategies.
A big thank you to my NPI colleagues who were able to join us for this virtual roundtable discussion today. You might be asking yourself, so what's next? We shared with you kind of a lot of pointers relative to hot topics that we get from key stakeholders. But I did hear one of our customers recently say that before they embarked on a full iLottery solution, they really worked with inside of their organization to kind of lay the groundwork so that they could be fully prepared organizationally to bridge the digital divide and to move to iLottery. So just a couple things here on this slide for your consideration. From a product and marketing perspective, you want to think about the database that you currently have within inside your organization. You want to think about your player loyalty program if you have one, and how you will want to maximize that opportunity once you transition to iLottery as well. You may want to think about, do you have utility apps, and how does that figure into your overall iLottery solution? Is your portal in a place that you feel good about moving to iLottery? Or is there work to be done there? And then just from like a games and a payout perspective, all of these are kind of interesting topics that we look forward to exploring with you, but things that you can be thinking about as you position yourselves to move to iLottery. Organizationally, do you have the structure that you need within inside your organization? Are you going to be looking to a digital agency? If you have a digital agency, do you have the right digital agency? Are you going to be looking to us as your partner and to utilize our customer engagement marketing services? Lots of things to kind of mull around there and think about organizationally. From an infrastructure perspective, think about, like, what do your business systems look like today? Do you have a data warehouse solution? From a personalization perspective, do you have the capabilities to do that with players? Again, we're happy to further the conversation with you there, but the things that you can be thinking about and dialoguing with inside your own organizations. And then, of course, as we talked about with Scott Bowen today, just political affairs. We can help. It certainly is a barrier for many states today. And as we said early on in the conversation, those barriers are kind of coming down a bit as we get through this pandemic. But certainly the barriers still exist. We're happy to partner with you. You know, today was just about bringing you information relative to key stakeholder hot buttons. We can help you with legislatures. We can help you from a retail perspective, how to, bridge the divide between retail, or the perceived divide, if you will, between retail and iLottery. We've got lots of exciting statistics that really bridge that dialogue quite nicely. But we're here to partner with you, and we look forward to getting some additional questions from all of you today. Thanks so much. Good afternoon, everybody. We're delighted to be with you. Hopefully you found that session to be informative. We're coming to you live for a Q&A session. live from Michigan and from Tel Aviv and from Maryland. So we look forward to getting your questions today, and I'll be monitoring the chat window. And I'm just going to get us started a bit into some of the questions that have been coming in. And I'm going to direct perhaps the first one, Julin, to you. Let's go back to the conversation we had just around cash out options and the benefit to retailer. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that, please, for the audience today?
Absolutely. So that feature, and I guess when Liz says we're coming to you live, heads up, anything could happen. Dogs, kids, neighbors. With the retail cash out feature, that is something that I think has been pretty well received in terms of giving players more immediate options to access their funds. There are some withdrawal features that, certainly take a little bit more time to process, and retail cash out kind of helps give an expedited opportunity for players to cash their wins. So they simply need to complete a withdrawal request. They can walk right into a retail store, have their barcode scanned, and receive cash in hand right there in the retail store. So great for the retailer. Obviously, a lottery player in store with cash in hand is a good thing for him.
That's great. And hopefully, I think that should have addressed the question. Yep. Is there somebody else?
Yeah,
Okay.
if more follow-ups, just send them on through. And, driving those transactions at retail is obviously the goal of all of these omni-channel strategies. So, getting over 30-ish thousand transactions through that cash out method is another good metric to keep an eye on.
That's great. And certainly we've all been busy at MPI during the pandemic, really working with our lotteries and helping them think through other great omni-channel solutions, kind of given what we're seeing currently. Scott, I'm going to turn the next question over to you as I continue to monitor the window. We're hearing a couple of things from a few of our customers, and then we're hearing this in the chat room as well. What are the best ways to prepare for objections from other gaming entities in your state?
Well, I think the best way probably is to partner with them when you can. I mean, the sports betting movement has gotten so much momentum around the country that it's probably a good idea to piggyback some of those legislative efforts. If others are going to be online, we need to allow our customers to play online. So in many circumstances, these conversations are coming up organically because of sports betting. But in each state it's different, and we just want to make sure that people are aware, Liz, that we have the ability to come in and help and try to partner with the lottery, to partner with other interested parties in the industry and get the legislative aspect covered and passed. And that's a difficult circumstance for many lottery directors around the country, and we offer that help.
That's great. And certainly I know, Scott, today you're engaged with many lotteries as it relates to that topic and others from a government affairs perspective. Sydney, I'm going to toss the next one over to you. So as it relates to, let's see, as we look in the queue here, what are other methods to help support player authentication? So a question we often get is, how do I know the player is of age? How can we support our customers?
So our regular way of authentication is an API to understand who is the player, age, and identity. And if that method fails, basically the player can upload documents and customer support will do offline check, get additional documents from him, and then verify his identity.
That's great. Thank you for that, Sydney. Another question that's coming in is just around, so is this the new norm? I guess is the way in which I would ask that question that I'm hearing. So people are asking, and I think people are wondering, and quite frankly, I think we're all still wondering the answer to this question, but is the world going to change? Is this the new norm? Is this how people are going to be conducting business going forward and really relying, as we said earlier, on these online channels? And quite frankly, I guess we would turn to at MPI sales, and we would say, what are we seeing from our current customers as it relates to retail and as it relates to online? Of course, at the beginning of the pandemic, what we saw was as retailers were having some challenges early on trying to figure out what did that new norm look like. we saw a significant increase from an iLottery perspective. Then the world kind of started to normalize a little bit, right? So retailers began to open up a bit more. We all became accustomed to wearing masks and going about kind of the norm of our daily lives. As retail was opening up, we saw those sales increase. But guess what? It didn't impact necessarily iLottery, meaning those sales still continue to be at above average pace. And we're seeing them stick there and continue to grow as retail grows. So we don't have a crystal ball at NPI, quite frankly, but what we would say to you is we do believe that we are experiencing kind of what the new normal is going to be. And our goal is to help you, our good customers and potential customers, to really kind of help you go through what this new normal looks like for all of us. I don't know if any of my colleagues have anything to add to that as well.
Well, I'd like to know where my NPI branded crystal ball is. I thought we were just handing those out. Besides that, I mean, I think, Liz, like you said, the trends are there. And I think that we're seeing, just even outside of our lottery bubble as well, just other forms of entertainment that have taken a hit. I mean, look at Monday Night Football. I mean, the scene on TV is just a totally different story. Movies, concerts, land-based casinos are having those similar types of impacts. And lottery is a form of entertainment. And I think that iLottery just gave us another opportunity to kind of navigate through these crazy changes that we've been going through. So, I think the course is charted, the technology is proven, full iLottery solutions are out there in the market, and the revenue is meaningful enough to, make it worth the political engagement that you need to go through to get iLottery authorized.
There's no doubt. And I'm going to continue to manage the queue here because there's a couple other questions. So Scott, I guess I would turn it back to you. I mean, the dialogue and the pace of the conversation has increased significantly from a government affairs perspective over the last 4 months. You have been one busy person. Can you just kind of share with some folks, like what is that conversation, and then how have you been working to maybe remove some of the barriers or to help further the conversation, if you will?
Well, sure. It's come up organically because everybody's worried about, revenues. And every state I know is suffering from the same sort of COVID depletion of overall revenue. So this additional accretive revenue is very important to states. How can you get more revenue out of your lottery? And one of the obvious things for those who are not online is to go online. And that conversation now is coming back actually from legislators who are asking, or governors who are asking, how can I get more revenue out of my lottery? And the obvious answer for all of them is to go online. And I think it's shown itself to be a proven way for lotteries to reach customers that don't want to go out and are looking for entertainment. And it's just a perfect time to consider iLottery as a way to augment revenue from lotteries.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Sydney, it's been a busy time for you as well. So when we think about the conversations we're having with our customers, we're always thinking about innovation, right? So to Julin's point, we are a form of entertainment, and we need to be where the players want to be, but we also need to be there with the experience that the players want to have. When you think about innovation from a technology perspective, I know you don't have a crystal ball either, but are there a couple things that you and your team are kind of thinking through relative to how to stay not where the ball is, but how to actually go where the ball is going?
Yeah, so we are working on a lot of omni-channel solutions to connect retail to the online. We're developing new games to excite the players, games that are focused on pure instant or more DBG related. And of course, we always work on the user experience of our solution.
That's great. Thank you. I know that your team is working really hard right now on just continuing to think about that player experience, especially with some of our customers in the markets where they're going to have gaming competition come in. It's super important that we kind of stay ahead of that, and we're providing the best player experience. The other thing I think during the pandemic, which is interesting, is if you think about the other channels that players are going to, so to Julin's point, whether it's Netflix or Spotify, I mean, that's e-commerce, and that's the way people are thinking about how they want to have an iLottery experience. So I think it's critical, and we've been spending, obviously, as a company, a ton of time making sure that we are staying ahead of and want to be where the ball is going for the players in the future as well. I don't see any other questions in the queue. I would turn it back to my colleagues just to say, are there any last points that you'd like to leave with our audience today? It's been a fun conversation.
Definitely appreciate NASPL taking the time to put this session together with us. And this is an important time of year to be having these conversations for many states that are gearing up for legislative session at the beginning of 21. So, we hope we left you with some food for thought, some good strategies that you can start considering as to how you might prepare for any objections that you may face from your stakeholder audiences. And, please do reach out anytime. It's only an hour-long session, so we didn't get a chance to tell you everything, but certainly as you want to dig in further, we're here to support any of those efforts.
Thanks, Julin. Well, I'm grateful for my colleagues at NPI. We like to have a little bit of fun too. So though these last 4 to 5 months have been busy, certainly we've done a lot of great things, and we've partnered with our customers, and we've had a little bit of fun along the way too through our Zoom sessions. So thank you all for joining us today. And again, thank you, NASPL. We're always delighted to be a part of these discussions. Thank you so much for thinking of us.
All right, big thank you to our panelists today, and thank you everyone for attending. Remember, you can find this episode and much more on the NASPL Matrix, and be sure to keep an eye on your inbox for information on upcoming episodes of Insights Direct. Thanks again, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks. Take care.